All right, we are recording, hopefully loudly enough. This video is going to be pretty different from my other videos. This video is actually going to be a code walkthrough for the game engine for Weather Factory Meltdown. So if you don't code yourself, this is probably going to be boring. And to be honest, my code style is different from what happens to be in vogue these days, or at least it's been different from what happens to be in vogue these days. What's in vogue these days seems to be very small methods and lots of them. I have some very large methods, and yeah, I don't know whether it would be a good idea to refactor those into smaller methods to make the code more readable. I was actually thinking to myself, maybe I should do some refactoring. Just don't add any new features to the game engine or to the editor. Just do a bunch of refactoring so that it'll be easier to collaborate. But then I thought to myself, maybe it would be better if I allow these flaws to stay where they are so that if someone begins to collaborate with me, they can start refactoring, and through that refactoring get to know the code better. I don't know whether that's the right way to go here, and that lack of knowledge on my part is one of the reasons why I'm doing this code review video. I'm taking a brief break from adding features to the game. Probably the next feature that I'm going to add is emotions, like the ability to change the emotional expression of the little characters' face plates while they're talking in dialogue in the game. I think that's what I'm going to do next, but at the moment I'm doing a code review. The whole thing is held inside a JFrame, and, well, actually, we haven't even gotten into the game yet. This is the main method for the whole thing. You double-click on the jar file, this is what comes up. I call it Pony Test Driver. Well, no, that's not what comes up. I think it's like Startup Panel. Let's see, Control, Shift R. Startup Panel. Alright, I take it back. This is what pops up when you first open up the jar. There's the constructor here, but obviously we got to start at public static void main. First we have the JFrame. We set the preferred size. It's my experience that you always have to set minimum maximum size to actually get the frame to change size. It calls the constructor for startup panel, sets the content pane there, adds a window listener that disposes the frame if the window is closing, set visible true, and that displays the little window that says, do you want the editor or do you want the game? So up here in the constructor, obviously I'm creating the panel, creating a button that says start the editor, create a button that says start the game. So which one do you want to start up? Start game, let's see, I believe this triggers a brand spanking new JVM. It triggers process builder. Let's see. And it invokes Pony Test Driver, which is another class that has a main method in it, which starts up the game. And it also pops up this little option pane that says, it sometimes takes several seconds for the game to load, please be patient, the game is starting. The editor always pops up right away. If there's some kind of exception, obviously it shows a pop-up explaining it. Then start editor, it's the same story, process builder, and it fires up editor and main editor panel. I'll probably do another few code reviews on the editor because that's one of the more complex chunks. So that's startup panel for you. Pony Test Driver, I should probably rename this to just Pony Driver, or better yet, Game Driver. Long term, I'd like to set this game engine up so that people can use it for things that have nothing to do with the My Little Pony franchise. I've got ideas in my head for how to add features to the game and turn it into this this is going to sound weird, but long term, I would love to use this to make an educational Metrovania style game. That sounds very bizarre, but it's too soon for me to even begin talking about that. And before it even becomes possible to make a Metrovania style game with this game engine, I'll need to add customizable abilities for playable characters. Things like elemental damage, customizable attacks like being able to go through walls and such, flight, all that kind of thing is going to have to be added to the editor and to customizable playable characters. And I'm still working through customizable NPCs, so it's going to be a while before I can even begin on that stuff, like probably a few years at least. Anyways, the way this main method works is first we have this JFrame, pops up the busy panel, which is that little panel that shows present opening and closing and saying preparing, preparing, preparing. Actually, I guess it's not opening and closing with that one. It's just got a thought bubble. Anyways, set the size, which for some reason works here. Pony panel is the JPanel child class where most of the action happens. Let's see. We add the window listener to notice when the window is closed. Frame, set content pane the game, and it's worth stating that a lot of the wait that happens at the beginning of telling it to fire up the game, a lot of the wait, I believe, is coming from the constructor of Pony Panel, which again I'm going to have to rename to Game Panel. So we've also got another window listener for window closed. Set visible, and you tell the game to start. And this is just the beginning of the code reviews. Obviously I have to jump into the constructor here, and I have to jump into the cycle of rendering and computing, but this is a good place to start.